we are on Clothesline, the show where we wring them clean, string them up and put them to dry on the Clothesline. If you've enjoyed the last few 20-minute long episodes of Clothesline and you've subscribed to the I Pay to Keep News Free campaign, then give yourself a pat on the back, because it's supporters like you who made it possible. If you like the last few episodes and haven't subscribed, it's never too late. Click here and join the cause. Can't subscribe because you're too broke? No problem. Tell your friends and family about what we're doing at News Laundry, and maybe some of them can help out. Every subscription counts, and with your help, we can achieve our goal of remaining independent, ad-free, and making news a public service again. Now, why is it important to be independent? I have two words for you. Paid news. You immediately knew what I meant, right? I don't have to explain. You know why? Because you're desi and smart. So smart that you probably have a relative in New Jersey who's won a spelling bee contest. Those two words, you get it, paid news. But if you're Gora, then just saying paid news would probably mean just bad desi grammar, which is why John Oliver did an 11-minute segment on the subject to explain it. Here's the gist.
It's generally agreed upon in journalism that there should be a wall separating the editorial and the business side of news. It's sometimes referred to as the separation of church and state. Since papers moved online, they have struggled financially, mainly because news is like porn. People don't want to pay for it on the internet. The publishing industry, though, has responded to this crisis by finding a new way to appeal to advertisers.
Native advertising is basically saying to corporations that want to advertise, we will camouflage your ads to make them look like news stories. That's essentially it.
The success of this practice has clearly impressed old media such as Time Inc., whose CEO recently created a native advertising team. And he also doesn't see why that might be an issue.
As long as it's clearly marked, as long as the consumer knows the difference between what's editorial and what's native, I don't see any problem with it at all.
And if you are wondering how he reconciles this with the line between church and state, well, funny story.
Quite frankly, I've changed church and state, as you know. We took that away and we said the editors are going to now be working for the business side of the equation. But frankly, I think they're happier. They're more excited about it, because no longer are we asking ourselves the question, are we violating church and state, whatever that was?
Whatever that was. That's like a surgeon saying, hey, I found this squishy thing in there, all bloody and gross, so I removed it, whatever that was. That was the heart.
Why do they call it native advertising? Because they copied it from us, the natives. Congratulations, Mr. Jain. Your revenue model has been picked up by the West. India's three big contributions to the West are yoga, Ayurveda, and paid news. Long before Americans were blurring the line between church and state, Indian news media had already burned down the church and was spending the insurance money on marketing teams. In America, they build articles around a product. Oi, America, we started that. On the 3rd of August, with tomato prices soaring, the Times of India carried this story. A healthy and tasty alternative to expensive tomatoes, which was actually a painfully contrived endorsement for a brand of tomato puree that they masqueraded as an article. Check this out.
It was great to open a pack of Freshino crushed tomato. The packet contains real tomatoes and crushed in pure form. As soon as I opened the packet, the taste and smell of tomatoes greeted me.
That's not tomatoes. I smell bullshit. But did they stop there?
The product contains 100% fully ripened, purified, farm-fresh tomatoes, which are free of pesticides and insecticides. These are crushed and packed in UV-protected packs in one of the company's modern high-tech factories.
Since the article was so blatantly an ad, the Times of India didn't feel the need to mention anywhere that's what it was. Now, since American news media is taking a cue from Indian news to generate revenue, why stop there? Politicians hai na. On August 4th, DNA's Navi Mumbai supplementary had this as its cover page.
Our MLA has done fantastic work.
How lovely. A tribute to the local MLA on the occasion of his birthday. In fact, the following 6 pages were also dedicated to what a wonderful MLA he is.
Young MLA with a youth connect. Navi Mumbai's voice in the house. 100% attendance, 100% performance. MLA with pulse of the people in projects that have changed lives of people. Reaching out and winning hearts. All in a day's work.
And the 8th and final page, it was a thank you message from the man himself.
It was all possible only because of you.
We're not sure whether he's talking about news editors with dubious ethics or his constituents whose taxes might have paid for the publicity. The Hoot reported that all the content was supplied by the MLA's office. See, America? You're just stuck on the most basic level of native advertising. Native advertising comes in many packages. The bumper pack, the super pack, the super platinum pack, and the sab kuch ki bech dalo pack. You've got to score brownie points with those in power. You don't have to actually create content, and most importantly, you get paid for it. With those sort of perks, it's no wonder that DNA was only one of 4 papers to do this. The others were the Hindustan Times, Lokmat, and Sakal. There are euphemisms for this sort of content. The Hindustan Times called it an HT media marketing initiative, and DNA called it a reader engagement initiative. Others call it impact features, and some prefer the term advertorial. But no matter what sheep's clothing you put on this wolf, its large teeth have ripped journalism to shreds. So we suggest some other dressy phrases like broadcasting sellout initiative, the Fourth Estate fundraiser, or let's just call it testicles. It's an article to test whether you're paying attention, because it's all bollocks and you must be nuts to believe it, or just call it whore to the core yaar. This isn't the first time this sort of thing has happened either. In the run-up to the Lok Sabha elections, the Election Commission reported over 700 cases of paid news. Oh, America, adorable America, you and your first world problems. Still, as John Oliver rightly points out,
before we demonise these organisations for selling out, it is worth remembering this is all at least partially our fault. A press cannot be free and independent if nobody is willing to pay for it.
Which brings us back to where we started. Will you pay to keep news free? Now, that is great native advertising. Then there's the Israel-Palestinian conflict that just refuses to end. As we shoot this, a ceasefire ostensibly is in place. While war has temporarily ceased in the Gaza Strip, the war of opinions on the conflict in news studios has not. And we saw just that when Fox anchor Sean Hannity played host to, can we even say host, to Palestinian Yusuf Munayyer. Watch.
I want to ask Yusuf a question. Is Hamas a terrorist organization?
Do I get to actually speak now?
You get to answer the question. It's a simple yes or no question. Is
Sir,
Hamas...
you invited me on here.
Is Hamas...
You invited me on here as a guest.
I'm asking you a question. Is Hamas, whose charter calls for the destruction of Israel, is that a terrorist organization? That's a yes or no question.
Thank you for your question. And now I will provide an answer.
Finally.
It's very telling to me that, and it should be telling to your viewers as well, by the way, that the moment you have a Palestinian voice on your program who begins to explain the legitimate grievances of Palestinians on the ground,
is Hamas a terrorist
not just
organization?
Hamas.
Answer.
Sir, let me
answer the question.
Finish. Am I a guest on your program, or
yeah, you're a guest, but you don't get to filibuster.
Answer.
Is Hamas a terrorist organization?
The United States certainly considers Hamas a terrorist organization.
Do you consider? I didn't ask what the United States think. I asked what you think.
Okay.
Can you hear?
Look, if you think that we are going to have any progress in this situation by simply yelling at me, that's not really going to be helpful.
Nicely. Is Hamas
let me ask you, sir, a question at this point.
Is Hamas a terrorist organization? Yes or no?
Let me ask you a question, sir.
No, you don't answer a question with a question. Is Hamas... What part of this can't you get through your thick head? Is Hamas a terrorist organization?
Excuse me?
Yes or no?
That's as fair and balanced as the war on the Gaza Strip. Then on Twitter, there was HBO's Bill Maher, who tweeted this.
Dealing with Hamas is like dealing with a crazy woman who's trying to kill you. You can only hold her wrists so long before you have to slap her.
You know how every time there's a terrorist attack, the news shows you a fanatic Islamic man chanting, "Death to America!" It seems that this time the daisies have become the crazies. But the desi who got lucky was Sreenivasan Jain from NDTV, who was sent right into the eye of the storm. Sreenivasan's Gaza report had everyone talking. Journalists with envy and viewers with appreciation and abuse, which is normal.
Okay, so we're witnessing something very, very unusual in this plot of land, abandoned plot of land right next to our hotel. A blue tent has come up. It wasn't there last night. It came up just this morning. And there have been 2 men moving in and out of it. Now, by reasonable doubt, it's fair to guess that this is a potential Hamas rocket launching site that's being set up.
fired today morning, a day after it was assembled at the exact spot the rocket has been fired. That's the smoke. We just shot a video of it in the immediate aftermath.
Not just room with a view, talk about room service. Great report, Vasu. Really, really good. And NDTV, pathetic, really bad. Now, Cub reporters, pay attention. We said really good to Vasu because this is how he introduced the bombers.
By reasonable doubt, it's fair to guess that this is a potential Hamas rocket launching site that's being set up.
Notice how he's careful not to label them as Hamas operatives because there's no way to confirm it, even though it's reasonable to assume that. It's rare these days to see a journalist just report without hyperbole and speculation, which is why great job, Vasu. And pathetic, pathetic NDTV, because while Vasu, sitting in Gaza, could not confirm that they were Hamas, NDTV's graphics team sitting in Delhi knew exactly who they were and ran these headlines. And even more pathetic was this promo run by NDTV.
We are witnessing something very, very unusual in this abandoned plot of land right next to our hotel. Does fire a rocket from here, it will have immediate consequences for everyone around here. That's the rocket being fired today morning, a day after it was assembled at the exact spot the rocket has been fired.
Way to go, undoing a great report with unnecessary sensationalism and bragging. Also, is recognition from foreign media our only means of self-validation? NDTV, that's why you're always the follower. And Vineet Jain's the leader. He just taught them something. I don't know whether it's good or not. While you get your thrills being mentioned in the Huffington Post, in keeping with his balanced reporting, Vasu also tweeted this.
In Gaza, we reported what we saw. Hamas assembling rocket or terrible toll on Gaza's children. No spin, no agendas. Let's keep it that way.
Why don't people at NDTV follow that advice? Indian journalists are always up in arms over corporate and political interference in editorial decisions. And most believe that the United States of America, who has always been held up as the country that values freedom of speech and dissent above all. We are reminded in the American national anthem, it is the land of the free. But the truth is, no matter where you are, there is only so much independence the powerful will tolerate, like what happened to NBC reporter Ayman Moeldin in Gaza, who tweeted this.
4 Palestinian kids killed in a single Israeli airstrike. Minutes before they were killed by our hotel, I was kicking a ball with them.
Ayman filed this heartbreaking report from Gaza on Wednesday, July 17th.
We came across these boys who were playing, at the time they were playing in a side street just across the street from our hotel. We stopped, I just joked around with them a little bit, we kicked the ball around for maybe just a few minutes and then walked on back to our hotel, not thinking anything about it. And what we learned was that a few minutes later they headed down towards the beach, which is just right across the street from where I saw them, and went down there to continue playing a little bit of, soccer, if you will. And then, we heard 2 loud explosions a few minutes after that. 4 Palestinian boys lost their lives. 4 others were injured. These were young kids, cousins, just trying to enjoy a summer day on the beach despite the fact that they were living in Gaza.
The next day, on Thursday, NBC pulled him out of Gaza. Ayman had also tweeted this.
The US State Department says that ultimately Hamas is responsible for Israel's killing of 4 boys in Gaza shelling by not agreeing to a ceasefire.
Those tweets must have rankled his bosses because they were subsequently deleted. Ayman is Egyptian-American and the only reporter in the region from NBC who speaks Arabic. His reports were considered too sympathetic towards Palestinians. Apparently, anger and outrage amongst Ayman's colleagues at NBC and the negative publicity that showed up the channel's pro-Israel slant led to NBC's reinstating Ayman to cover the region. The battle for independent journalism versus corporate control is on the world over. Whose side are you fighting on?
Hi guys, I'm Sumit. Did you know that for Kashmir Ki Kahani, I read more than 6 books. I read a lot of articles and I drew over 6,000 frames. I met a lot of journalists. I even interviewed Yasin Malik for that comic. Did you like it? Yeah! It took me almost 9 months to make that comic. Was it worth it? Yeah! Do you want more?
ये more कहाँ से देंगे? I have no more money to pay for a comics. भाई बस कर, चले जा. ठीक है? Thank you.
I know. वैसे भी कौन से करोड़ों दे दिए? He can't, but you can. Will you pay to keep news free, even if done comically?
Now for this week's Fakwa recipient, Raj Shetty, the photographer extraordinaire who decided to base his photo shoot on the Nirbhaya gang rape. This is like if Spielberg included a sex scene inside a gas chamber in Schindler's List. Dude, what the fuck were you thinking? Then we had Manishankar Iyer on the buck stops here. He may not have been in high spirits, but we think spirits definitely played a role.
UPSC is too important an institution to be sacrificed at the altar of democratization of languages. Okay. That was not the function of the UPSC. Irrespective of what Manishankar Iyer says, perhaps immediately after he got recruited, we started recruiting the best and the brightest.
That line was said to provoke money. And money! Money, what did he do? He did this!
Today, my batch has toppers from IITs and IIMs and regional engineering colleges who run this country. And that is enough proof of the fact that we do pick the best and the brightest and should continue doing so. Don't sacrifice merit. Don't lower the bar. Don't kill this institution. At the same time, allow...
We need panelists to have breathalyzer tests before they come on air. Still, he seems to have got all the rest he needed because just a day later, on India at 9, Mani was back. In the same kurta. Did he not go home? Did he sleep in that chair?
Why are you wasting my time? I'm correcting you. I'm correcting you, Mr. Bhupinder. Then rubbish. Yeah, just stop it.
Go ahead,
Let's get back to your
question.
question.
Go ahead. No,
What's
I'm
your
asking.
question?
I asked you.
What's your question?
My question is Rahul Gandhi indulging in gimmickry? That's my point, sir.
No. These are genuinely felt emotions. The contrived element is the contrived criticism of a man whose head is growing so big because he's suddenly become Minister of Finance and Defense and whose stomach is equally growing big. I find it offensive that this kind of allegations are being made. No, please don't. No. You're just a jejune and rather callow young youth.
Mani's tirade even stunned poor Pushpesh Pant, who took to Twitter soon after this debate to say this.
Abusing political opponents and trying to put down a younger participant, calling him a callow youth, tempts one to ponder hazards of senility.
Then there was Rahul Kanwal, who was woefully unprepared when he got a chance to speak to Joshna Chinnappa, India's Commonwealth Games squash doubles gold medalist. Get this.
Joshna, what do you think the both of you need to do to ensure that the success of the Commonwealth Games can be repeated during the next Olympics?
Right now, squash is not there in the Olympics.
Okay, so
thank you to Akash for that spot. Rahul wasn't the only anchor who got his facts wrong. Here's Sunetra in a one-on-one interview, this time with Nayanthara Sehgal.
Our guest today on Agenda is a very special one. It's someone who's not only been at the center of the Congress party, the Nehru-Gandhi family.
I want to make one correction, and that is that this term Nehru-Gandhi family is a misnomer. I'm a member of the Nehru family, yes, because my mother was a Nehru. I'm not a member of Feroz Gandhi's family. So I don't belong to the Nehru-Gandhi family.
It's just a Nehru family.
Yes.
Some things never change. And then there's Aaj Tak, who changed things on a whim. Here's an article on Imran Khan, the cricketer turned politician. And boy, does he not look like himself at all. If that's bad, there was the New Zealand Herald, who did something similar, except that they printed an image of deceased Jackass star Ryan Dunn instead of a deceased Israeli soldier. How? By using the first image they found on the deceased soldier's Facebook page. Talk about being dead wrong. Well, that's a wrap for the week. If you saw any moments from journalism that made you go, oh wow, or oh crap, write into us or tweet to us. Subscribe to our newsletter and support our I Pay to Keep News Free campaign. We are the change. You are the change, for better or worse. Never do nothing. Stay connected. Stay online.